everybody, and welcome to our first TENS webinar for 2024. We are exploring bringing the ocean to the classroom with virtual reality. I will introduce the webinar in a moment, but before we do, we will start today's session with our karakia. Maori ora kia amato, arahina mato, kia amato mahi, ki mihia he huarahi mo te kaupapa o Mautaranga o Hangarau. Awhina atu, awhina mai. Te poe here ne I amato, hui taihie. So once again, kia ora. It's lovely to have people on board with us today, and welcome. We know lots of people will be getting ready and raring for the new school year. In terms of the webinar today, just the logistics in the background is if you do have any questions for our presenter, you can type them into the Q&A box in the webinar, and we'll take questions at the end of the session. So that is for you to have just to be aware of, and please pop the questions in when you want to. We will be keeping an eye on them during the session as well. But without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our presenter for today. So all the way from Blake, which is a program that's been established to continue the legacy, obviously, of the famous sailor, Sir Peter Blake, a passionate environmentalist who obviously is very well known in New Zealand. So Alice is the head of the Discovery programs, leading the New Zealand VR and Explorers programs, as well as community outreach. These programs are focused on inspiring rangatahi to care for and take action to protect marine environments. Alice has studied a Bachelor of Science in Ecology and Zoology, and prior to working with Blake, she worked as an ecology consultant in assessing the health of Auckland's freshwater environments. And I'm sure Alice will do a little bit more of an introduction, but welcome to the session today. I will stop presenting, and then the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Sarah. So, kia ora koutou, ko Alice Waddell taku ingoa, ko takumahi ki Blake. Kia ora, my name is Alice. I work for Blake, and as Sarah said, I'm the head of our Discovery programs. So I'm going to talk about what that means as I work through, but today the main focus is going to be on how we bring the ocean to the classroom using virtual reality. So to give a bit of an introduction to Blake to start off, as Sarah touched on, we are the legacy organisation for Sir Peter Blake, who was one of the world's greatest oceanic sailors. He led Team New Zealand to victory in the America's Cup twice. He also did the Whitbread Round the World race. And he didn't just do that race once, he actually did it 5 times. And it was across those 5 years that he started to notice and observe some of the changes happening in our environment. You can see in our logo, we've got the albatross. That's there because that was Sir Peter Blake's favourite seabird to see when he was out sailing across the ocean. And it was across those 5 years that he started to see less and less of the albatross flying along beside his boat. And that's what inspired him to start Blake Expeditions. So you can see in the photo here with him in the yellow jacket, that's him down in Antarctica with his boat, the Seamaster, behind him. So him and his crew sailed on the Seamaster down to Antarctica with the goal of looking into, observing, completing some scientific research into the impacts of climate change. This was back in 2000 and 2001. And then they sailed up to the Amazon River. They were sailing along the Amazon River, looking at the impacts of deforestation in this area, where, as I'm sure many know, the tragic incident happened where Sir Peter Blake was shot by pirates, and unfortunately he did pass away. So following Sir Peter Blake's death in 2001, the trust was set up, and it was set up to continue his legacy. We actually use words from his final log entry, which you can see here. We want to restart people caring for the environment through adventure, through participation, through education, and through enjoyment. So that's our purpose at Blake, and those words from Sir Peter Blake are what guide us in everything that we do. So I'll talk now a bit about some of the programs that we run. We run quite a range of different programs, all centered around environmental leadership. Today we're going to hear quite a bit about the NZVR program, so I won't go into that one too much at the moment. But essentially we run a virtual reality program that takes VR headsets into schools to educate about our environment. Off the back of the NZVR program, we set up Blake Explorers. This is a 3-day camp experience for intermediate age students where we take them out into the environment. This came about after we went to lots of schools and started to notice that students were getting this in-school experience with the VR, but they weren't actually getting that time outdoors in the ocean, in the native bush. So we wanted to enable that for small groups of students if we're able to. We've also got Blake Inspire. This is our longest running program at Blake, and it started off for senior high school students, and it's a week-long residential program centered around environmental leadership. We also run a version of Blake Inspire for sailors, so the same age group, but students need to be connected to a sailing club. And then we also created Blake Inspire for teachers. So I will talk about that at the end as well. But the same concept, it's for teachers, primary intermediate teachers from throughout Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we bring them together for a week of environmental learning with the hopes that they're able to learn some more about the environment and how they can take that back to their classroom. So everyone who goes on Blake Inspire is then eligible to apply for Blake Expeditions. So Blake Expeditions is partnered with the Navy, and we're able to take small groups of students, teachers, and sailors on expeditions to places such as the Kermadec Islands or the Campbell Islands. And we also run expeditions with University of Otago to remote areas of Fiordland. And the idea of this program is for those really keen environmental leaders, we want to provide hands-on opportunities to do some science in really remote areas of Aotearoa. And the last program that I'll touch on is Blake Ambassadors. So this is for 18 to 25-year-olds, and it's an internship style program set up with the likes of Department of Conservation, NIWA, and for some lucky students, Antarctica, New Zealand. So all of this, there's lots more information that can be found on our website, which I'll share at the end. But today I'm going to focus on our virtual reality program, as well as at the end, I'll talk about Blake Inspire for teachers. So NZVR, to give a brief introduction, it came about as a partnership between Blake and New Zealand Geographic. So New Zealand Geographic had this idea to go out and film our underwater marine environment around Aotearoa. They wanted to collect this footage of 360-degree real-life footage, and then they reached out to Blake to be able to do that partnership outreach side of things. So now we're taking that footage and using it for education in schools. NZVR has two major objectives. So one of them being we want to overcome ocean blindness. So we want to be able to, when people go to the beach, for example, they might look out at the ocean and they see this big, blue, beautiful area. And it's not often that people get that opportunity to actually experience what's going on underneath the surface. So we want to be able to provide that for people. And then we also, another major objective is to provide marine-based experiential learning at scale. So we also understand that for schools, it's a lot of admin to be able to take a whole class or even year level, or let alone school, out to the marine environment and take them snorkeling, for example. So that's where we came up with the idea to take the ocean to the school and use virtual reality to still create an experiential and immersive environment for the students. So at the moment, we've been up and running since the end of 2018 in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, since the start of 2019. Across those years of developing the program, we've been able to grow. And now we're also based in Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, as well as Ōtautahi, Christchurch. Throughout the year, we'll also try to get out regionally and visit different areas of the North and South Island. And that sort of just differs year by year, depending on interest from different regions and teachers that reach out to us. And then last year, we developed a partnership with the New Zealand Marine Studies Centre. So now they deliver the program in Whakatū, Nelson, and Ōtepoti, Dunedin. So our big goal is that this program is able to get everywhere in Aotearoa, New Zealand. We really wanted to be able to provide it for as many students as possible. In terms of how the program actually runs day by day, so typically we turn up at school with our virtual reality headsets. We'll set up in a room, whether it's a classroom or the library, and then classes will come to us. So within a day, we typically run 4 classes a day, and then it's a full class at one time, so up to 30 students per class. And we run an hour-long session that uses the virtual reality throughout, as well as shows a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to give you an example of this shortly. And it's really interactive, both in the VR and also in how the educators engage with the students and get their input throughout. Our focus at the moment is on years 5 to 10, with a main focus being on years 7 and 8. From time to time, we have moved that around depending, but yeah, that's kind of where we've ended up. We think it works best in that sweet spot of year 7 and 8. We've got a range of session topics, and we're continually looking at ways we can expand on that as well. So we have a session called Threats to the Moana, and I'm going to give you a taster of this shortly. We've also recently developed the marine mammals lesson. And then at the moment, we're working on a climate change lesson with the hopes that we'll have that up and running later this year. And then to sit alongside all of this, this experience, these sessions, we've also developed free teacher resources, which I'll talk to at the end. So what you can see here is a map, and this, for the lesson that we're going to talk about today, this is the different locations that we utilize. So at the moment, we're able, this is for both the Threats to the Moana and the marine mammals, we're able to take students to all these different locations. As you can see, all of our footage is around Aotearoa, New Zealand, because we really want to provide that local understanding of what our marine environment looks like. And we're also working on growing the footage and trying to get footage from a good scope across the country as well. Like I said earlier, New Zealand Geographic are the ones who go out and actually capture the footage, and that's what we can see here in this photo. So this is a picture of Richie, one of the camera videographers, and he's got the 360-degree boxfish camera in front of him. And so that footage is capturing, like I said, 360-degree footage so that the students have that freedom of movement. So when they've got the headset on, they're able to look all around them, up and down, and they'll all be in the same situation, but they're all looking in different directions. They're also recording the natural underwater sounds, so it's fully immersive in that sense as well, is that they're getting the real life underwater sounds to go along with what they're seeing. So I'm going to go into now a little bit of what we run with our Threats to the Moana lesson. And with this lesson, what we're trying to provide is the experience using virtual reality to showcase the difference between some healthy and unhealthy oceans around New Zealand. We'll give the students the understanding of what causes the ocean damage that they may be seeing, and then also get them to think about ways that they can act. What can they do to prevent it from happening? So to start off, we do a lot of compare contrast through our lessons. So I'm going to take you to 2 different locations. The first one being Te Haere Amaki, Goat Island, and this is New Zealand's oldest marine reserve. And we also use this as a way to educate the students about what is a marine reserve, and we really want to point out the things that we're actually not able to do within a marine reserve and why. And in a marine reserve, we're not able to go fishing, we're not able to take anything, and we're also not able to feed the animals, and that's because we don't want to change their behaviour. So we basically don't want to be changing or influencing that natural environment. And then we're going to compare it with an unprotected area within Te Kapa Moana, Te Moana Nui Atoi, the Hauraki Gulf. So we want the students to be thinking about what changes from a protected to an unprotected. So I'm going to showcase some of the footage now so we can have a look at what we're seeing. So this is in Te Haere Amaki, Goat Island, the protected marine reserve. And now I'll take you to the unprotected area of the Hauraki Gulf. So we typically start off by just asking the students, what did we see? So if we think about that protected area, things we want to highlight is the taumuri snapper swimming around us. On the screen, the footage looks quite funny because it is 360 degrees. It's quite stretched out, whereas when the headset's on the student's face, they're fully surrounded by these snappers swimming up right up to the camera, almost coming up to give them a kiss. So that's pretty exciting for the students. So we had lots of the big fish. We also had lots of rimu rimu seaweed, and we also had beautiful clear water. So looking at all those three things, we'd usually ask, do you think this is a healthy environment? And yes, absolutely, that's an example of a really healthy marine environment around Aotearoa. In comparison, looking at the second place in the unprotected area, what did we see here? And maybe what were some of the things that were missing? So we did see a lot of kina, sea urchins, whereas we didn't have that seaweed growing and we didn't have those big fish like the tamaru snapper. And so why was that the case? We didn't have any of the seaweed because in reality, kina's favorite food is seaweed, and there's so many kina that they're eating the seaweed from the rocks. So I'm not sure if you could hear the sound in the video, but you can actually hear the sound of the kina grinding their teeth as they move across the rocks and they ate the seaweed. And then we'd usually ask, so we didn't have any seaweed because the kina have eaten it all. Why didn't we see any of the big fish? And the reason we don't have the big fish here is because it's an unprotected area. And like we would have talked about earlier, in a protected area, you can't go fishing, whereas in that area, we're able to. So people have gone out, caught those big, delicious looking tamari snapper, taken them home and eaten them. And then if we've taken out all the big fish, why were we left with so many kina? Well, that's actually because snapper, tamari, they're one of the top predators of kina sea urchins in New Zealand, along with another top predator, our coda crayfish. So if we're coming along, people are coming and taking out all of these top predators, the snapper and crayfish, that's going to unbalance this food chain. We're going to end up with nothing eating the kina, so they're going to overpopulate and they're going to end up eating all of the seaweed. So this is how we educate about overfishing. And we find that usually the students with that immersive experience and being able to identify what they're seeing themselves, we then find that connection between what they're seeing and what's happening really easy. As students might have never heard about this or even seen these animals before, and they typically pretty quickly pick up the pieces of this puzzle. I'm just going to show one quick example and one more example of overfishing. So we've got two photos here. They've actually both been taken in the Mokahino Islands, which is in the outer Hauraki Gulf. And on the left here, we can see an example of a really healthy environment, whereas on the right, it's like what we saw in the video, so really unhealthy with a lot of kina. And the thing here, though, compared to our footage taken in two different locations, these two photos were actually taken in the exact same place, just 5 years apart. So that was the healthy situations in 2014, and then 5 years later, this is what we found. And this is because it's an unprotected area. People aren't going fishing. There's nothing eating the kina, so they've overpopulated and eaten all the seaweed off the rocks. And I don't know about anyone on this or listening to this webinar, but myself personally, I love to eat kina. And we find students sometimes like to eat kina too. But if we think about that, would we want to be eating the kina from the second unhealthy environment? And we're able to show you exactly what they look like. So in reality, no, we don't, because everything in this environment is going to be impacted. So those kina, they're running out of food, so they're becoming really small and skinny. So yeah, this is how we educate about overfishing. I'll also quickly show you an example of pollution, which runs in a similar way. So we're going to compare two different environments. This time we're going to take you up to Tawhatinui, the Pornight Islands. This is also a marine reserve. It's a beautiful area, and we're going to see some giant whai or stingrays. And then we'll come back to the coast and jump underneath a wharf. So if I showcase, here's our first video. So again, very similar situation, identifying which of these two environments is healthy and which is the unhealthy environment. I think it's pretty straightforward. We've got that amazing environment at the Pornight Islands, Tawhatinui. It was quite a funny one to see stretched out, but these stingrays that we see swimming around, they're actually the world's largest they're short-tailed stingrays, and they can weigh over 300 kgs. So it's pretty amazing when you're watching that virtual reality footage to see a massive stingray swimming up right beside you. And then in comparison, we have that wharf environment. And I think we don't need to go into it too much because it's pretty obvious what the problem we're seeing here is, and students usually pick up on it pretty quickly as well, and that's pollution. And we like to get the students thinking about how that pollution ended up in the ocean and where did it come from in the first place. And so connecting that with the land and our actions as well, and reminding them that all of our drains and all of our waterways, they connect and flow out to the sea. So that means everything from our land, all that pollution is going to end up running off into the ocean. We typically ask, has anyone ever seen one of these signs? And I think everyone will have. So telling us we can't go swimming, fishing, collecting any ka moana just because of the state of the ocean, too much pollution. We don't want to end up getting sick. But these animals, these amazing animals and environments, we also don't want them to get sick or damaged as well. So that's when we lead the conversation into what can we be doing about this. And we introduce kaitiakitanga, so guardianship and the actions that we can take to be a guardian for our ocean. So how could we stop overfishing, or how could we stop pollution? In a classroom setting, we'll typically run this as about a like 5 to 10 minute discussion, depending on timing, getting the students to break off into small groups and talk about what they think they could be doing personally. And then we'll bring it back together and share some of those ideas. And I'll just pop these all up on the screen for a moment, but here's a range of some of the ideas that we might talk about with the students and go through. So for overfishing, it might be around supporting marine protection, going out and experiencing these environments, as well as thinking about the fishing rules and how we act around fishing. So really importantly, only taking what we need. And then pollution, there's a whole heap we can do as well, whether it's thinking of ways to reduce our waste, or planting along streams and rivers, and then also really importantly, spreading the word. And it's awesome when we go to schools and we do this project, it's often connected to a unit around kaitiakitanga, and then the ways that teachers get them to go back to the classroom and do an action or come up with an innovation or something that they can see helping the environment. And we always love to see that after the fact as well. I'm just going to check, I might reshare, so I want to make sure my sound is working. Now, it's obviously you haven't had the awesome experience using the VR, but I can show you a little video that demonstrates what it is like when we're in a classroom with 30 kids with virtual reality headsets on. So hopefully the sound works on this. Suppose you'll get a bit of an idea. So yeah, it's usually very lively. You could see all the students looking in different directions, having that personalized experience within the facilitated session. We often have kids pretending to swim, or I think that kid that was jumping around the end maybe was pretending to ride the dolphin. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome and lively situation when we are in schools. So as I said before, this has been up and running fully since the start of 2019. And yeah, we've learned a lot throughout that time. Some of the key learnings that we've had is that young people engage fully in the experience, like you would have seen a little taste of in that last video. That's yeah, a really immersive situation. It's a great accessibility tool. So like I said near the start, it's obviously really difficult for some schools, or quite a lot of schools, to be taking students en masse out to do snorkeling or these different marine environments. So being able to bring it to the classroom, take away a whole lot of that hassle. The 360-degree videos are immersive, and they also individualize the experience, like I was just saying. We found like the technology investment is essential. So making sure that we do have quality headsets that provide a really high quality image to make it feel fully immersive. And also we invested quite a lot of money and time into developing the software near the start of the program. So we've taken away, I don't know if anyone here's used a virtual reality headset themselves, but they come with a little remote. And so we've taken away the need for that remote, and now all the headsets are linked up to an internet system, which is like a router and a Raspberry Pi, then which then connects to our phones. So we can go onto a web link, and then it's basically like a remote control. We press a button and it plays the same video for the whole class. Excuse me. And yeah, it's a highly effective entry point. So it's the great way to take, give a taster or open the students' eyes of what's happening in our marine environment. But then we also find that follow-up lessons or follow-up learning is also critical. And that happens through a number of revenues. We have teachers booking us in from across the curriculum and relating it to different areas they might be, typically it might be social science or social studies, but also we have it quite often falling into technology subjects, sometimes art, they might even be doing writing. So yeah, it really is able to be used across the curriculum, we find. Cool. I'll talk about our teacher resources then. So when we developed the program, we also developed resources to go along with it so that, like I said, we could provide that follow-on learning for teachers. These were created by a science teacher from Christchurch who was doing a secondment with us back in 2018. And so they're all linked to the curriculum, so science and social studies predominantly. They've been created in a way that they can be used by all ages. And so they're set up in PowerPoints and worksheets. And essentially, if you go on our website and you select one of the topics, whether that might be marine ecosystems, food webs, or it might be take action to help our marine environment. And then it has a whole range of different activities. And if you want, you could work in it from front to back, or you could also just do one of the activities from it. They're all for free to be downloaded from our website. And then this gives you a bit of an idea of what they look like once you've downloaded them and gone into them. And the other really cool thing is that New Zealand Geographic have made all of the virtual reality free for use on any device that connects to the internet. So lots of our resources, and similar to our lessons where we're getting them to make observations and compare different environments, that follows through in our resources as well. And yeah, you can go, if you go on to, I think that's the next one. Yeah, if you go onto the website, the videos are split by location, and then you can roam through, there's honestly hundreds of videos out there. And you can pick a video. If you're using it on your phone, then you can move your phone around, and that gives you the freedom of movement. If you're using it on a computer or laptop, you can use a mouse to move around. You can also look at these obviously on a virtual reality headset if you have access to one. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And another way to continue that learning. All schools have free New Zealand Geographic subscriptions, so they can look at everything, but they're also on there for free for the public as well. Cool. So with the VR, we are currently taking registrations for this year, and you can register on our website. I think this link is going to get sent to all of those who registered post, as well as posted on the 10 social media. And then if you do have any specific questions, maybe you're outside one of the areas that I mentioned at the start, but you'd be really keen, then you can always feel free to email me. It's just alice@blakenz.org, or that information can be found on our website as well. Because like I said, those regional trips are usually based on where we have lots of interest. So if you're very keen, you could see what we can organise. But yeah, anything in general, if you're just interested in how we're using the technology and you have a question post this webinar, please feel free to just get in touch with me. So before we go into the Q&A though, I'm going to talk a bit about Blake Inspire for Teachers. So as I mentioned at the start, this is a 5-day action-packed environmental education leadership development program in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. It is fully funded by the Ministry of Education, and although it's run in Tamaki Makaurau, it's available for teachers and educators based anywhere in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And it's a week-long residential. You stay at a hotel in Auckland Central, and throughout the week you have a range of experiential learning opportunities, and you learn practical ways to encourage environmental action, conservation, and sustainability within your school and across all subjects. So it's an amazing week. We do the likes of go out for a day and do freshwater testing. We also learn from the New Zealand Marine Studies Centre, Sally Carson, and she takes us through Marine Meter Squared and a range of different marine activities. Rude Kleinpace, the bug man, he's there for the whole week usually, and he's very entertaining. He takes us for a bushwalk at Tawharanui Regional Park. Yeah, we do all sorts. It's an amazing week, and like I said, it's teachers from anywhere in the country, and also any primary intermediate teachers, no matter what you're teaching. So we quite often have technology teachers coming on the course, whether they're teaching technology, food, environmental, like, yeah, across it. As long as you're someone that's interacting with students at those ages, then we'd welcome you to register and apply for the program. You can go on our website and register anytime. It just you just have to put in your details, and then when the application's open, you'll get a reminder email. Jacob, my colleague who runs that one, also his details are there. So if you have specific questions, you can ask him. But what I'll do is, to give you a bit of an idea of the program, I'll just play a short video about the Inspire program as well.
Blake Inspire for Teachers is a week-long action-packed activity for teachers all over New Zealand, getting teachers outside, learning about the environment, and then taking those ideas back into the classroom so they can implement them in their schools and their communities.
Imagine having a school ground with this sort of noise. You can have that. You can have that right around your old school.
To me, the most important thing to recognise is both mātauranga and science have been generated with the same method. Mātauranga is knowledge born through observation, through testing, through prediction, through forecasting. Science is knowledge that's generated through observation and testing and prediction. But the subtle yet important difference is that mātauranga is that knowledge codified within a Māori worldview.
It's been wonderful to come here and get a different perspective on what we have learned in Te Ao Māori, you know, just to get a scientific perspective to that.
We went to Orangahina in Te Aratu Peninsula. There's an amazing wetlands there, and we had the teachers out on the estuary.
I always love doing the macroinvertebrate investigations and the Waikea side of it. There's just always these creatures you never really expect to see living in there. It's actually pretty exciting.
We went out to a marine reserve. We went down into the rock pools and we foraged around and looked in the cracks and the crevices and lifted rocks, looking for whatever critters, sea stuff was in there.
We make beer, that's our core business, and we felt like we were doing a good job, but we needed to step up and find a way to be a better business. And then the really exciting opportunity is to share the information and make it easier, and to see our industry as a whole improve.
Our trip to Tiritiri Matangi was just phenomenal. Seeing the wildlife there, it was quite special.
It's a great place you can come and see what New Zealand should be like.
This is cool.
To be there and to see some of the bird life there that we'd only heard of or sung songs of flying past you. It gives me lots of ideas that I can take back to my own kura, can apply and implement with my own kids, get them engaged.
It's our job to educate them and uplift them and let them see the potential so they can talk to their families and their families can talk to their families and the ripples go out.
Global warming, climate change, you know, they're all huge issues. You know, we don't get it right now. We're not going to get another chance.
And I'm so proud that we get oversubscribed with teachers wanting to do this so that they can take all this knowledge back into the classroom and have a go at their own pupils.
Oh, so that does bring me to the end of my presentation. The Blake website has lots more information, but I think we've also got time for a Q&A now. So if anyone has questions they want to ask, yeah, I'll hand it back over to Sarah.
Kia ora, Alice. Wow, what an amazing program. I mean, you've just done really a snapshot of two of the different things that you actually are focused on. And I mean, not only see the benefit for, well, primary and intermediate, but definitely for secondary, to actually get those students hooked into real and authentic contexts, particularly from a technology lens. It's amazing. I mean, if you can get the students actually feeling what's going on, and I think that's what you can do with those immersive VR experiences, then you've got that emotional hook to make them want to do more. I mean, I've started to want to do more just from seeing what you showed there, and I've even got a headset on, which is fantastic. Yeah, if anybody has any Q&A, please pop them into the chat. I'll just ask a couple of questions because that's what I do in these sessions. I mean, something that there's a few things that I really noticed with the links to the technology curriculum just from this program. I know essentially a lot of the resources could be social sciences and science led, but of course we have that STEM approach nowadays. We have that curriculum integration approach in our classrooms, and we want to try and cover as many different aspects as possible and make learning real. But I mean, the quote that came from Sir Peter Blake at the beginning, caring for the environment. I mean, we could even, that's an easy technology context for any classroom teacher or any teacher just to take and use. If you start with that and then get your students watching these things and participate in some of the activities and then looking in their own environments and seeing what can they do, some amazing different projects and ideas could come from that, which are probably very innovative and very creative by following a design process. And really clearly something I know that some teachers do struggle with, especially with technology education, is they're great at going through a design process, but that it's the understanding the nature of technology. And what you were showing there was the real big clear links to the impact of today's society and our technologies and our way of life on the environment. And looking at that from that historical and also current point of view, and making people aware that when you do design things, like if you are going out on fishing charters and again that mass fishing, and then what is that going to do for our environment? Or if you do have litter, or if you are doing things where things might potentially go down the drain, where is it going? What is the impact on society? And so I mean, lots and lots of links, I think, especially for technology as well, weaving in, coming through. Couple of questions. I noticed that you've got loads of amazing locations around the North Island. Do you have many locations of filming in the South Island or Stewart Island?
Oh, not Stewart Island, unfortunately. That would be very cool. But yes, it's fairly recent, so that's why it wasn't on the map, because it's yet to be on our headsets. But we now have footage from the likes of Fiordland in the marine environment. That's pretty amazing. We have some from the top of the South, Marlborough, and then we have a lot of footage from actually the land environment. So like we have footage from Aoraki, Mount Cook, and the glaciers along the west coast. We've also got west coast footage. So we're building up that South Island now, so that then as well, that means in Ōtautahi we can actually adapt the program so that it's got that local context.
And then obviously the schools and the students can actually really feel that a lot more, can't they, as well, because they know that's their backyard.
And exactly.
Awesome. Oh, that's really cool. You sort of mentioned why some of the teachers bring your experiences into the classrooms. Have you got some examples of potential projects that they may have made like to actually help and support with environmental conservation or those kinds of things from a technology lens? I'm just
I'm trying to think. We definitely get emails of this sort of stuff from a technology lens. Think more about that. We've had like I guess we've had things they made in terms of like, I remember one of the schools came back and did this big thing where they went out and did a rubbish collection, and then they did the litter intelligence program, and then they thought, okay, what could we do to improve this? So then they created like drain covers for their drains to catch the litter, and then they also did art around the drains to educate. So that I guess it combines a few different technology subjects into that project.
And in fact, actually, our last webinar of last year was Ben from the Litter Project as well. Cool. And so if anybody is interested in that, please jump onto our YouTube channel and watch it, because it's, once again, it's a great way to, I mean, I could see directly the links between what you guys are showcasing and bringing into the classroom, and then the litter intelligence project is taking it to that next stage, because it's actually getting into your own local environments and making, once again, that learning real again, and seeing real life purposes which they can actually develop ideas from.
We've had it used in so many contexts. Like I've had schools send like they've used it in drama and dance and created like skits and stuff, and sent us recordings of their performances, lots of art-based work. And then we also were working with Christchurch City Libraries, and they created a project combined with us where they did the VR learning, but then they created podcasts or animations off the back to educate post session.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
That's a really great idea for yeah, those more authentic projects to actually take that, because it's about spreading the word, isn't it? I think we mentioned that it's about getting the word out there and making people much more aware of what's actually going on, and if they can physically see it as well, which is phenomenal, then that impact is much bigger. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and then like we were talking just off air as well, you could actually go into creating their own VR as well, potentially, to actually explore this further as well. So there's lots of different things you can do with digital technology side of technology too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
awesome. Well, I don't think we've got any Q&As. I think that's me filling in for the last 5 minutes. So on behalf of TENS, I was going to say thank you very, very much for taking the time today to obviously give up your time to come and spread the word about Blake. And I think it's an amazing initiative. I wish I was well enough to be able to come on I want to go on the week-long course, but I have to sleep every afternoon. So yeah, I mean, it made me want to come and come and explore more, and obviously get the students out there. And yeah, great links to things like the UN sustainability goals as well, if we're looking, because that's how I can think we can hook in our senior secondary students. I can definitely see some great ideas for projects and learning in that space too. For those people who are watching online, what we will do is we will try and pop the links that Alice was talking about as well in the YouTube blurb. So yeah, so people do realize that we do record each one of these webinars, and we do have a TENS YouTube channel, so you will find all of our webinars from the last few years are all on there, and they're all in lots of different technology areas. And for those people who are registered as well, we will send out the information that Alice has provided to you too. For those of you that do watch the webinar, if you could please fill out the feedback form for us, that would be amazing. It just helps and supports TENS with future webinars and PLD as well. So once again, Alice, thank you very much for taking up your time today. Our next webinar we're going to have next month is Celia Hogan from Little Kiwis Nature Play. And so actually we've got a lot of links with sustainability, environment coming in as well. And this is Unleashing Creativity with Natural Resources. So please feel free to sign up and register for that next webinar. And we look forward to seeing you then. And I will finish today with karakia. Kia amato katoa, kua mutu mato amatu mahi me kopapa hoki. Arahina mato ka amato mahi ano. Kia whakatapua mato ki ngā kopapa me ngā mea e whakapono. Manakitia mai mato. Ka kite.